Andrew, it's such a pleasure to meet you. My name is Nick from NovaStream. How you going today?
It's good. It's good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thanks. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I watched The Wedding Banquet the other night and I had so much fun with this film. It's so funny, it's so sweet, but it's such a fantastic character drama as well. And obviously, I'm aware that it is a remake of a very popular Ang Lee film as well. So I'm curious to kick off our chat by sort of finding out what that balance was like for you in making this film and sort of honoring aspects of the original and the importance that has in cinema, but then putting your own stamp on it as well. And that sort of Andrew on sort of comedic and dramatic styling.
Yeah, it was hard. It's it's a process. Um, especially because the original film means so much to me. The Ang Lee, Wedding Banquet was the first gay film that I ever saw. And
Wow.
so it put a lot of pressure on me to make this one great. I think I wanted it to feel really organic. And so so much of my inspiration for this movie um, was the feelings and emotions that came up watching, the original film. Um, I had a meeting with the producers and I rewatched the original, as an adult. And, um, like any great piece of art, it just inspires so much feeling and memories and ideas. And so, I used that um, kind of inspiration from the original and then married that to kind of personal insights. When I watched the film, you know, uh, back in 2019 in preparation for that meeting,
Mm.
I was in a phase of life where I was thinking a lot about queer family building and marriage and children. And so I used, that phase of adulthood, as another creative North Star to guide me in this reimagining.
And, and it feels so authentic, I think, for that reason, that personal insight adds so much substance to these characters that we go on the journey with. And it kind of had me thinking about how you incredibly balance humor and that grounded drama. You're kind of finding levity in these very human thematics. So I'm curious to know sort of what that process is like. Is that just something you see as a reflection of life? Is that no matter the trials and tribulations that we go through as people, there is this sort of funny levity and humor to it as well.
Yeah, especially love, right?
Yeah,
Like I think
exactly. Yeah.
love is extremely funny and
Mm.
you know and it's also really heartbreaking and
Yeah.
difficult. That's what I love about the rom-com is that
Yes.
it really feels like form and function make sense together.
Sure.
And it's definitely a craft, to balance, um, heart and humor. Um, and it's a very difficult part of, the filmmaking process. It's something that I think is, you know, an element of the film that is process long.
Sure.
You try and find that balance in the screenwriting, you try and find that balance in the directing, you try and find that balance in the edit. Um, but I think if you really trust kind of your taste and your instincts, and you work with your collaborators, you end up with something that feels really organic and holistic to the spirit of the film.
Yeah. And that comes through in the way I think you shoot it as well. There's this sort of connection we have with the characters that feels very intimate because you do like a lot of close-ups and we're sort of very much in the conversations. But there is one scene in particular that I did notice there was a bit of distance, and it's when Lee and Angela come back and it's that first conversation about wanting to start a family, and there's the comparison between the mother as well, and you do a shot that's like from above and a little bit further away. And it was the first time I kind of felt distance from the characters in the film. I'm just curious to know how much your visual language is something you're thinking about in the script, or is that something that as you're talking about the scene, maybe with the collaborators, with the actors, that you're sort of thinking about in those moments too. I think it's a brilliant way to shoot it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's, something about a visual honesty that
Sure.
my cinematographer Keegan Kim and I were really interested in,
Mm.
um, and it's wanting to not uh, impose an aesthetic on top of the characters that doesn't feel right for the moment, doesn't
Sure.
feel like them, and I think in that particular moment that you mentioned,
Mm.
you know, we we kind of wanted to show a distance because there is a distance,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think it's these characters kind of trying to understand each other,
Mm.
um, and and wanting to kind of emphasize the dramatics of the scene, as opposed to, you know, um, like trying to force something onto it.
Sure.
And so, kind of throughout the directing process, there was a lot of planning, but then also discovery on set that we wanted to be open to. And so, if we were feeling a certain vibe, how can we accentuate that?
And is that conversations that even with your cinematographer that extend to like Lily and Kelly as well? Because I'm always curious about like actors' relationships with the camera as well, and how their
Mm.
performance is dictated with that. When you do find that discovery on set, how much do they sort of get involved in the collaboration with that as well?
Yeah, I'll say uh, when you're rehearsing with your actors before shooting a scene, you're talking a lot about kind of the dynamics and then how that gets physicalized through blocking.
Mm.
And the actors blocking and the camera, those are really intertwined.
Yeah.
Um, and so, the actors are a big part of the visualization of, the scene. Um, I think having your cinematographer or your camera operator, watching the rehearsal and kind of move around, the actors start to feel like, oh, wait, like, where is the camera and what feels right for them?
Yeah.
You know, there are certain scenes where that's going to be very direct, and the actors will have a direct influence, and then there are certain scenes where the actors really are kind of um, in their world, and then we just have to kind of be respectful and find a way to capture that where it's not as direct an influence, so it's very scene by scene, but
Sure.
I think it's something that uh, allows for a film to feel kind of organic and holistic.
Yeah, and like I said, that's how a lot of your movies feel. That's I think that organic, holistic sort of approach is on a technical level. I love watching that, but I think that also informs a lot of the performances as well. And speaking of performances and actors, there's a scene towards the end. I don't want to spoil it, but it's where a character is quite emotionally moved by a piece of art or something that someone's created. And I love that. Being a movie lover, the power of art and the power of cinema and things like that can help people understand. There's putting your people in other perspectives and stuff. You mentioned obviously being moved by Ang Lee's The Wedding Banquet, but I'm curious to know what role sort of art, whether it's film or otherwise, has sort of played a role in your life in emotionally understanding things or perspective changes and things like that.
Yeah, there's kind of no medium out there um, that can show you a different perspective um, more powerfully than film.
Mm.
Film does that so well because of the literal kind of camera and lens, you
Yeah,
know, that POV. And so, I think uh, I've watched so many films kind of over the course of my lifetime that have taught me about, you know, different cultures, kind of moments in our lives, kind of births and deaths and these things that we, like are hard to experience, right? There's conflict that like is too scary to kind of deal with head on sometimes. And
Yeah.
so you need a film to kind of help you um, kind of have a little bit of a safe distance to then, kind of explore and then hopefully, when you come to that point in your life, be able to deal with more, in a healthier way.
Yeah.
And so I really believe in the power of art and
Yeah.
its ability to kind of give us a test run, like kind
Yeah,
of
totally.
prepare
Yeah.
um, for what may be really difficult, in the future.
It's incredible, and it's part of the reason I love films. I remember I saw Fire Island at the Sydney Film Festival when it premiered there a
Oh,
few years
cool.
ago, and I actually saw it with one of the guys you spoke to earlier, Peter Gray.
Oh,
And
cool.
I'm a
Yeah.
straight guy. He's gay, and it was fantastic to sit there and talk about his experience stuff. And we've known each other for years, and we'd never spoken about his gay experience and the things that mattered to
Yeah.
him. And that film was a avenue for us to be able to do that. So I truly believe in the power of cinema and seeing them at a festival with a crowd who are so excited for it. I know that you have a wonderful relationship with the Sundance Film Festival for the films earlier in your career. So I'm curious to know sort of what role that Sundance has played in that, and what the excitement was in bringing the Wedding Banquet to Sundance earlier this year.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that story
Oh
about
no,
going to
pleasure.
watch the movie, with Peter. I'm so glad that we could have Fire Island, in Australia.
In cinemas
I
as
I
well, yeah.
I yeah, I love film festivals because I think art making in general, but film also very specifically, it can feel like a very daunting kind of solo adventure. It's very isolating in a way, as you dream up a film, as you write a film. And so film festivals really give you an opportunity to connect with an audience, to connect with other filmmakers,
Yeah.
and feel less alone, and kind of inspire and motivate you to keep going. And that's something that Sundance has really done for me in my career. It's given me the sense that, you know, um, I have people that I can, rely on, that I can work with, collaborate with, and will champion, my work. And that to me is, it's so much wind in my sails.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the festival experience as well. And I think that, like you said, that community is so important, especially fostering a community of people who love art in the same way you described earlier. I'm about to get wrapped up here, and I'd love to finish on one thing. It's I don't know if it's just because I've been on a Star Wars kick with the re-release of Revenge of the Sith and stuff, but Angela getting compared to Queen Amidala had me laughing a lot. I think just the timing of watching that joke was there. I'm curious to know, like, I'm not a big fan of like what was improvised and not, but that moment there, was that just something on the set that day when you saw the makeup and that, and you went, "That's a funny line. That's something we do," or was that always scripted that way?
Believe it or not, that was scripted
That's
even
incredible.
before Kelly Marie Tran was cast.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna
like,
ask.
pretty, like, kind of wild. And then, there's a mention of, the Wizard of Oz in a
Yes,
scene
yes.
with Bowen Yang, and that was also written before Bowen was attached.
Some
And so it kind
manifestation
of
going on here, Andrew.
I really think so. I know it just kind of feels fated that that was our cast, and so yeah, it's kind of wild to think, but that's the truth. It's the
That's
total truth.
That's incredible. Oh, I love that. Like I said, I loved this film. It's as funny as it is heartfelt and human, and those are the stories that really transport me. So thank you so much for your time, Andrew. I appreciate it. I've loved chatting with you, and I hope we get to do it again with whatever's coming up. I really hope we get to talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.